Bruno Fernandes is currently out for Manchester United and your FPL team, so let's have a look at the best Bruno replacements. But before we get started, you guys should know by now, leave a like on this video because that'd be greatly appreciated. But more importantly, let's have a look at Bruno Fernandes replacements. And I picked 5 in this video that I think the FPL community are thinking about quite a lot, that I'm going to give my opinion on. Starting with Anthony Gordon, who obviously got 2 assists for WIRTZ on the weekend, coming off a good performance. And to be honest, this is probably the best run of form Anthony Gordon has been in a very, very long time. His performance against Burnley 2 weeks ago was very good. His performance when he came on against Spurs was almost like the catalyst for Anthony Gordon to step it up. And as we've seen in recent weeks, he's looking really, really good. But is he actually a viable FPL asset is the question that I think a lot of people are thinking of right now. In my personal opinion, I would actually avoid Anthony Gordon as a Bruno Fernandes replacement. Now, let me explain. Anthony Gordon is obviously a top player, and we know the damage that he can do on the football pitch. Newcastle's fixtures over the coming weeks are also very nice. They obviously have Manchester United away next, a difficult game. After that, they have Burnley, Crystal Palace at home, Leeds at home, and Wolves away. That is a decent run of fixtures for Newcastle. And listen, you expect Newcastle to win at least 3 or 4 of them. But we are entering a very busy period for Premier League sides during the Christmas period. We're going to have literally 4 games or 4 deadlines within under 2 weeks. Is Anthony Gordon going to play every single one of those games? I think the answer to that question is no. You guys know that answer to that question is no, because we know Harvey Barnes is going to take minutes of him. We know Alanga, Murphy are going to rotate on the right hand side. We know Wissa and WIRTZ will probably share some minutes. No one in that Newcastle front 3 is guaranteed to start all 4 games during that period, which is why if you're a manager that wants that safety net, especially over Christmas when you know there can be a lot of rotation, is Anthony Gordon the player for you? In my personal opinion, he's not the player for me. I would actually avoid Anthony Gordon. The fixtures are obviously very nice, but if he's going to play in, let's say, 3 of the 4, I wouldn't go there, especially considering during this period, other players in your team will probably get rotated as well. So Anthony Gordon for me is a no. But if you guys like a spicy pick, a pick that probably not a lot of people will go with, Anthony Gordon may be your guy. But for now, I would say avoid. Now, the next player to talk about is Florian Wirtz. Arguably the best short-term punt. Wolves at home next, Leeds at home next for Liverpool. Great fixtures to target. And it seems like Florian Wirtz and Arne Slot are finally connecting on a football pitch. In terms of Slot, is finally favouring Wirtz in the position and the role of the football pitch that we know he's succeeded so well at in Bayer Leverkusen. Florian Wirtz loves that inside left channel. That's where he's been playing the last couple of games. We saw for the majority of this season, Wirtz playing centrally and a lot deeper in midfield, trying to collect the ball and progress it. That's not where he succeeded at Bayer Leverkusen. The role that he's had over the last 2 games is finally the role that he saw at Bayer Leverkusen, and you're seeing it. His points per match over the season has been 2.8. The last 3 games, it's jumped up to 5.3. He's got a couple of returns in there. I think he's hit DEFCON once in that period as well. So even though he's not a DEFCON monster, let's say, he's certainly looking like the player that we know he was at his previous club. One thing I would say, his per game data is something that I really, really wanted to talk about, because his per 90 data looks brilliant. But you guys need to remember, is Florian Wirtz a player that completes a lot of 90-minute games? The answer to that question is no. Is Florian Wirtz a player that, especially over the next couple games, is likely to come off? Yes, because he's been coming off throughout the season. So are we really expecting Florian Wirtz over the next couple games, let's say, to average probably per the next 4 games, let's say 70 minutes per start? I think that is something that is very, very viable and probably the most likely scenario with Florian Wirtz. He's not a 90-minute man. He doesn't have penalties either that some players might also have in this video. For example, Anthony Gordon, who we already spoke about. So that is just something to consider. But I definitely do think Florian Wirtz as a short-term punt might arguably be the best Bruno Fernandes replacement. And you guys can see the predicted points below me right now. Florian Wirtz actually comes in the top 6. Matheus Cunha is first, Bukayo Saka second, Foden third, Palmer fourth, Schade fifth, and then it's Florian Wirtz. So listen, he could be a very, very spicy differential for you as a Bruno Fernandes replacement, because a lot of people are going to look at the points per match throughout the season. The points per matches hasn't been there. His points haven't been there. but he's slowly starting to tick in the upwards direction, which is something that FPL managers normally like. Can you get in early on Florian Wirtz? Let's see if you're brave enough to do it. But anyway, that is the second Bruno Fernandes replacement that I wanted to talk about. Let's move over to the third. Now, the next person I wanted to talk about is probably the man of the moment right now in FPL. Morgan Rogers coming off 2 15-pointers back to back. Currently averaging 10.7 points per match over the last 3 games, which is phenomenal. But I think the question has to be, have people missed the boat on Morgan Rogers, or is he still a viable FPL option to replace Bruno Fernandes? For me, I think the boat has slightly been missed with Morgan Rogers. If we're looking at Aston Villa's next 3 fixtures, they have Chelsea away next. That is obviously a very, very difficult game. Then they go to Arsenal away. Listen, they beat Arsenal in the reverse fixture, but do I expect the same? Probably not. Then they have Nottingham Forest at home. I think that's not a bad fixture, but the first 2 in the immediate future, they are very, very difficult for Aston Villa. And one of the things that a lot of people have said about Aston Villa's underlying data hasn't been the best. But when Morgan Rogers is producing worldies like he is right now, the goal against Manchester United, especially the first one, they are getting results. And 10 wins in a row? Certain clubs have only won 13 games this entire year. So listen, Aston Villa are obviously in a very, very good run of form. But as I said, I don't think the underlying numbers are supportive of Morgan Rogers so far. If we're looking at his per 90 data throughout the season, 0.17 XG, 0.09 expected assists. Those are not the greatest of numbers. Over the last 3 games, his data has been a lot better, especially in terms of the XG department. But is that something that I expect to be a sustainable, let's say, run or numbers throughout the season? The answer to that question is no. However, one thing that is interesting is when players get in this sort of form, it almost seems like they're just going to continue to be in this run of form. And Morgan Rogers is obviously competing with Jude Bellingham for the number 10 spot for England in the World Cup. He's really, really confident now, right now. You look at his shot numbers. 1.54 throughout the season. The last 3 games, he's averaging 4 shots per night. Now, 4 shots per night, or 4 shots per game, let's say. That is extremely, extremely high. So that's something that, listen, if you want to take a bit of a risk, Morgan Rogers might be your guy. And remember, he's going to play every single game over the Christmas period. He's the 90-minute man, guaranteed. That is something that someone like WIRTZ is not. Anthony Gordon is not. Morgan Rogers might just be that safety net that will probably tick over nicely with points, even though the next couple of fixtures are very, very difficult for Aston Villa. So, Morgan Rogers as a Bruno Fernandes replacement, I probably wouldn't do it, but I definitely get the appeal. Let's have a look at number 4. Now, when we talk about players heading in the upwards direction, I think there's only one person that we have to mention in FPL right now, and that is Matheus Cunha. He's averaged 0.37 expected or XG throughout the season. That's not horrible. The last 3 games, it has gone up to 0.79. His expected assist numbers almost up by 0.11 again. DEFCON, he's actually very, very good for an attacking player. Let's say 8.7. We're not going to call him a DEFCON monster, but he is taking over quite nicely. Points per match, doubled. 7.3 now. And more importantly, and the stat that I think interests a lot of people, he was averaging 3.81 shots per 90 throughout this entire season. The last 3 games, he's gone up to 7.7. I think he's had about 15 shots in the box over the last 4 game weeks. Semenyo, who we normally associate with like a shoot first player, someone that has a lot of shots, has had 10. So you can understand the form and how, let's say, shot hungry Matheus Cunha is right now. And one thing we've always said about Matheus Cunha, especially at Wolves, when the going gets tough for his sides, he normally steps it up. Manchester United now, without Brian Mbeumo, without Amad Diallo, without Mazraoui, and more importantly, without Bruno Fernandes, Matheus Cunha has to take a lot of responsibility to obviously create for his side, to score for his side. Because he's a senior man in that front line alongside, let's say, Mason Mount. But you see the personality that Cunha has. You expect him to be the one to deliver for Manchester United. And listen, Manchester United's next game is obviously Newcastle at home. United could perform in that. Newcastle haven't been great away. You could expect Matheus Cunha to obviously get a couple of returns. But the fixtures after that are sensational. Game week 19, he plays his former side, Wolves, again. And we saw in the reverse fixture, Matheus Cunha had something like 8 or 9 shots against Wolves. He wanted the goal. He his finishing probably could have been a lot better in that game. But Wolves at home, this is a very good opportunity for Matheus Cunha to return it. Then Manchester United play Leeds away. A big game for Manchester United and Leeds fans. They obviously don't like each other. It's a rivalry. Then they go to Burnley away. That set of fixtures is arguably one of the best set of fixtures any side will have this season. And listen, Matheus Cunha, he's performing right now. He's getting FPL returns. Obviously scored against Aston Villa as well. And missed another really, really big chance that he probably should have buried as well. I think this is arguably their best Bruno Fernandes replacement now. Everything is heading in the right direction. Expected assist numbers, XG numbers, shot numbers, points per match, DEFCON is heading in the right direction. The fixtures are there. I expect Matheus Cunha to be the top scoring midfielder out of any single person in this video over the next 4 to 5 game weeks. So right now, I'm going to say Matheus Cunha is my favourite Bruno Fernandes replacement. Now, let's talk about Declan Rice. This is probably, let's say, the safest pick out of any single person in this video. Guaranteed good minutes, especially over the Christmas period. Performing at a very good rate and probably has the most routes to points. We know Declan Rice is a brilliant set piece taker. We know he has a brilliant potential to get DEFCON. He's averaging 15.7 DEFCON over the last 3 games, by the way. He's hit it twice in that period. We know he can chip in with an odd goal. We know he can chip in with the assist. He obviously won the penalty that Gyökeres scored on the weekend against Everton. The question is, what's not to like? Declan Rice is probably not the best FPL asset at anything, but he has a bit of everything, which is why he's averaging 5.7 points per match so far this season, which is incredible. And obviously he's coming off an 11-pointer against Everton. I really, really understand the appeal if you want to go with Declan Rice. He's probably not the most exciting pick. He's probably not the one that's going to get the, let's say, most explosive scores, even though he did get an 11-pointer on the weekend. But he's someone that's just going to nicely tick over with those, let's say, 4-pointers. The odd 6 or 7-pointer without getting any returns. And obviously, if he returns, he's going to get a double-digit haul like he did against Everton. I think, arguably, this is probably the player that, besides Cunha, a lot of people will probably favour as their Bruno Fernandes replacement. Obviously frees up a lot of funds. And by the way, this video I'm only talking about midfielders. I know a lot of people are, let's say, downgrading Bruno Fernandes and then maybe spending the money to get an Ekatike as replacing Thiago or the third forward option. So I've just kept it to midfielders. These are the 5 midfielders that I think I like the most so far as a Bruno Fernandes replacement. Obviously, you could go cheaper with someone like Ryan Cherky, but are you really sure with his minutes? Do you really want to risk it with Cole Palmer during a busy Christmas period? Is there anyone else you guys like? Let me know down below in the comments. But these are the 5 midfielders that I would pick as my Bruno Fernandes replacements. And just general opinions that I have of them. Matheus Cunha is number 1 for me. Declan Rice is arguably number 2. Then I'll probably say Florian Wirtz 3. Gordon 4. Rodgers 5. That's how I'm going to rank them if I had to choose. But it's obviously very, very tough. But I do know Matheus Cunha and Declan Rice will be top 2. But anyway, that is the video done. The best Bruno Fernandes replacements. If you guys like the video, make sure you guys give it a like. Comment your thoughts on who you are going to replace Bruno Fernandes with. And obviously subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back soon.